Hello and welcome to the Farming Today podcast with me, Charlotte Smith. In this episode, why UK chickens are unlikely to be vaccinated against avian flu. More on that later. Let's start, though, with a divisive topic in many rural areas, data centres. These huge buildings house IT infrastructure to process and store digital data. They use a lot of power and also a lot of water. Well, this week we're looking at land use, and the siting of data centres is a growing issue. A 110-acre centre is planned on greenbelt farmland to the north of Glasgow, one of 16 such centres in the planning pipeline in Scotland, according to the campaign group Action to Protect Rural Scotland. Our reporter Richard Baines has been finding out more.
So we're just coming through some trees, the top of a little rise to overlook the site. We've got agricultural fields in front of us. They look like they're rough grazing mainly.
I'm at the Bishopbriggs site with Kat Jones, director of the countryside charity Action to Protect Rural Scotland.
It is a huge, huge site. So from where we are to Low Moss Prison must be about 1 kilometre, and it goes just to the other side of Low Moss Prison.
This site is currently greenbelt. East Dunbartonshire Council plans a regeneration zone here to boost the economy. But Kat Jones believes the jobs yield from an AI data centre is too small to be worth losing these fields for.
If you want to create jobs, this is not Jaguar Land Rover factory. It will be taking energy and water from Scotland, changing it into data and sending it off to train AI models.
So who wants to build here and why?
AI and technology has been massively impacting our lives in a very positive way.
Michael Hunter works for Apertura, the firm proposing the Bishopbriggs AI data centre. He believes the 6 data centres his firm is planning across Scotland are essential to keep the country competitive.
If you are using Alexa, if you're using YouTube, AI is inputting into that. From a medical perspective, it's been amazing, the big advancements that AI has been able to make.
Apertura says this site will provide a major economic boost to the area, with 500 or so permanent jobs created at an average salary of around £65,000.
The direct jobs that will be created are probably not comparable in numbers to an equivalent industrial facility or an Amazon fulfillment centre. The key is the average salary is so much higher.
Apertura is building data centres in Scotland to take advantage of plentiful renewable energy. Our chilly climate provides another advantage.
Being in Scotland, they're able to utilise the free air cooling. It's somewhat of a joke in relation to the Scottish climate, but it has been a massive attraction in the Nordics. We believe that minimising the environmental impact is important, and one of the ways of doing that is to locate these facilities as close to where there is big renewable electricity generation, that being in Scotland.
Once built, this data centre and others in Scotland are likely to be used by a data giant such as Google.
Richard Baines reporting there on data centres. Well, artificial intelligence has the potential to revolutionise farming. But how? Trials are underway all over the country looking at everything from soil to bees. Martha Dixon from BBC Radio Cornwall reports.
On lavender fields in a green corner of southeast Cornwall, the future is being written. Farmer Ian Sexton is operating a special robot that rolls on wheels over his crops. It can plant, weed, spray and, importantly, collect information about the soil, along with hundreds of other things that affect this corner of the county. It's an AI experiment Ian's doing alongside Plymouth University and a robot company to support his essential oils business. Predicting windows of work and knowing where you can plant is helpful amid big climate changes.
There's such a need. It's just one of me here, and there's so many jobs to do, and the changing weather pattern means that I have less and less time in which to do it.
At Plymouth University, I'm shown where the AI bit kicks in. On big screens, we can see everything about the soil on Ian's land. And the information about the movement of his bees is extraordinary. The pollen gathered in the special sacs on the legs of the bees can be identified and even traced to the field where it was gathered. The bee information could direct nationwide planting habits to help reverse the decline of our pollinators. The systems have been developed under Jake Shaw-Sutton, the director of Robotrix. His company works alongside academia. He also builds the robots to gather the information. He showed me a new dog-like machine that really looks quite canine and moves with agility and speed.
This type of robot dog is really important for the terrain that we see in places like Cornwall and Devon.
It's one of the few technologies.
Jake says AI is already built into large-scale industrial farm machinery, but it hasn't yet infiltrated most smaller farms. His mission is to release data so it's free for all and make this type of farming much easier to handle.
AI has changed so many different industries, but it hasn't in farming yet. Farming is the underpinning for a nation, and being able to feed everyone by using AI, that gives that power to the farmers to make better, more informed decisions.
Martha Dixon reporting there. British chickens are unlikely to be vaccinated against bird flu because of the cost and concerns about trade. The first UK trial of an avian flu vaccine is underway on 1,000 turkeys, and if it's successful, the vaccine may be rolled out to them and to ducks. But the British Poultry Council says that given the cost of the vaccine and the surveillance testing afterwards, chickens won't be included. Bird flu costs the government an average of £174 million every year. The turkey field trial has just got underway on 3 farms run by Mark Gorton from traditional Norfolk Poultry. He told Alex Dunlop of BBC Look East he's delighted to be involved.
Oh, this is a momentous day for us and for the whole industry. This has been many, many years coming. Arguably, it's been too long coming, but we are here now, and it's fantastic that we're doing this. And this is really the start of what will hopefully be the end of this devastating disease that we've all suffered from over the last 20-odd years.
So we're looking at 3 sites across East Anglia, 1,000 birds, a trial that's going to last 24 weeks. When will they be vaccinated? How often will they get a booster?
So the birds will be vaccinated a day old and then again a few weeks later, but this is the interesting part of this trial because we need to understand how long the vaccine works in the birds and how long it will protect them, which is also one of the reasons why we're keeping the birds for so long on our farms to study that reaction.
Traditional Norfolk Poultry is leading the trial. Why were you picked? Why did you step up to the plate?
We've been campaigning for this for many, many years, and we've suffered ourselves with this disease and lost many, many farms and many, many hundreds of thousands of birds to it. We've seen this as the only answer to this. We've seen it happen when we had COVID a few years ago, and we know vaccination will be the answer. It's been a long time coming, but we're here now, and this is really a positive step.
5 vaccines within the European Union have already been approved. Why can't you just go with one of those vaccines and just get ahead of the game?
We need to understand how these vaccines work on our farms here in the UK and to understand the way the surveillance works around the whole vaccination system as well, because there's more to it than just vaccinating the birds. The birds still have to be tested to see if they've caught bird flu, but obviously because they've been vaccinated we wouldn't necessarily see it. This is a big part of this trial.
Do you think we're still a bit behind the curve? In France, they regularly vaccinate ducks. Elsewhere in the world, they vaccinate chickens.
Yes, we are behind the curve on this, hence the reason why we've been campaigning so hard. Yeah, under the current guidelines, the surveillance requirements are massively cost inhibitive for us to do it. So that is a big blocker at the moment, and we need to get that sorted out. We need to find a more cost-effective way to test these birds once they've been vaccinated.
Is that another way of saying you want more government financial support in the surveillance and testing?
Absolutely. This is costing the government a massive amount now, so there's no reason why the government shouldn't be helping us to subsidise this.
When, with the following wind, would you hope to see turkeys being vaccinated regularly in this country?
Well, we're running this trial now, but we're not going to stop campaigning and pushing to get this vaccine introduced into the UK. In reality, it's not going to happen for this year, but we will be pushing for it to happen as soon as possible and hopefully next year.
Turkey farmer Mark Gorton. The British Poultry Council's technical director, Maura Burnett, told me that vaccinating birds has an impact on trade because of fears they may hide the disease and so spread it. And that, along with the cost, means mass vaccination of UK chickens is unlikely.
We see the vaccination as an additional tool to control avian influenza It's not the silver bullet, and nor is it a substitute for biosecurity. So good biosecurity still remains the first line of defence against avian influenza, but we see vaccination as a positive step forward. But we need everyone at a domestic and at a global level to come to the table on this subject, because vaccination shouldn't be a barrier to trade. But we have seen that, particularly when the French started vaccinating, they're still facing trade restrictions, and we have to avoid that at all costs.
How would you imagine then it being used here in the UK if you don't imagine that we just vaccinate everything?
The Joint Industry Government Task Force published its report last year and did recommend a vaccination trial in turkeys to broaden our knowledge. Part of that, the task force exercise was to do a cost-benefit analysis of the uptake of vaccination programme here in the UK. And the outcome of that showed that turkeys and ducks would benefit from a vaccination programme. They are also disproportionately being affected by AI in the last few years.
And is that because chickens just aren't worth as much?
Seasonal turkeys in particular do have a higher value, and also they're longer-lived birds, as are ducks, but also laying hens and broiler breeders, for example, or any breeding bird, could also benefit from a vaccination programme because of the length of the life cycle of the bird. But it all comes down to the surveillance costs, which are very, very high at the moment, because we have to follow the EU's requirements on surveillance, and these costs are very prohibitive. But because we see the benefit to the turkey and duck sectors, we see that there will be some uptake there. But before, we roll out a sort of a vaccination programme, the cost of which would have to be borne by the industry, we need to ensure that the vaccines are effective, and we also need assurances that there's no risk to our trade.
Do you know how much it would cost per bird to both vaccinate and then do all the follow-up tests?
I don't know by bird, but the task force cost-benefit analysis showed that the cost to the whole poultry industry would be around £250 million. The majority of that cost is actually the surveillance. So the vaccine dose itself is relatively cost-effective, but it's the level of surveillance that's required, and also the lab capacity to actually sample all the tests coming in. But what we've seen in France is that the French government subsidised the surveillance programme. I don't think we're going to see that here in the UK. The cost will have to be borne by the industry.
What about the welfare of these birds? We've seen how awful avian flu can be, particularly if it gets into these bird houses. Is there not an argument that says you should be doing everything you can to protect those birds?
Yeah, the industry is doing everything it can. It has, very good biosecurity in place to protect the health and the welfare of the birds. But unfortunately, this disease is highly virulent, and, despite all the efforts of the industry, we're still seeing an increase in cases, particularly this season. So vaccination can be a tool alongside good biosecurity to protect our flocks.
But it just isn't realistic to expect that in the future we will vaccinate all chickens.
I don't see that we will vaccinate all chickens, but I think certain sectors of the poultry sector will take up the option to vaccinate if the findings of the trial are positive. I think we need to wait to see the findings to demonstrate that the vaccines are effective and they do give that immunity for the life cycle of the bird.
Maura Burnett from the British Poultry Council. That's it from us. I'm Charlotte Smith. The producer is Beatrice Fenton, and Farming Today is a BBC Audio Bristol production.